Hello, everybody. It's been a little while, but we are back. This is Quasar Qua-Nology, the podcast that reviews every Qua-Nological appearance of your favorite spacefaring superhero, Quasar. I'm your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we are going to be taking a look at issues 10, 11, and 12 of the Cosmic Avenger. If you're listening to this as like an audio podcast, we've also we've also started recording video alongside. So if you're unfamiliar with the comics and you'd like kind of a visual representation of what we're talking about, you can check that out over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com or over on our YouTube channel at the same name. So yeah, you can come take a look at us talking about these comics and, you know, really being able to see visually what we're talking about.
Exactly. So now, if you do have your own copy of Quasar number 10 at home, you can flip that sucker open right now because we're about to jump into number 10. After we talk about our cover here, into our. So we got our cover here where Quasar. There's someone called Dr. Minerva who is attempting to amputate his hand. His hand, of course, or his wrist is where he keeps one of his quantum bands, and she's obviously trying to amputate his arm to get to those. Now, we should point out the editors, I believe, are the ones that come up with the titles for the covers. And so the title of this one is Farewell to Arms. Get it? So, okay, now we're going to jump in. And we have a scene here where Quasar, we kind of have this pattern going now where every issue opens with Quasar. It's like a cold open where Quasar is in the middle of dealing with like a minor threat, right? Mm-hmm. And in this story, it's who is this here? Half-Life. It's a cool name. I've never heard of this character before. Maybe I have, but I forgot about her. But he's basically just kind of dealing with her and attempting to bring her to the vault. And so after kind of having a little bit of tussling with her, right, using his powers in a creative way, he drops her off at the vault. We see a shot of the what are they called? The guardsmen, I believe. They wear the green costumes at the vault.
I can't remember actually.
Yeah, drops them off and then touches base back at his headquarters, which is actually the Four Freedoms Plaza, just the headquarters of the Fantastic Four. But they don't actually know, that Quasar is headquartered here. So it's kind of cool. So he drops in. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, which is funny because I think in one of these issues, he just like flies by everybody in costume and flies up the elevator. So it is I don't know why people just walking around don't know he has headquarters there.
Why they haven't figured it out, right? So this is always my favorite part of the story. Well, one of my favorite parts. He drops in with his coworkers and touches base to find out what's going on, and kind of does his little routine, and then he's like tired, so then now he's going to go to his office. He goes into his office and he cosmically moves aside his bookcase and he has a conversation with Eon, who is the metaphysical ancient being that has assigned him to be the guardian of the universe and specifically to protect Eon from a cosmic threat. And Eon doesn't know where the threat is, but it's assumed it's on Earth. And Quasar has to figure out who this threat is by basically investigating every single extraterrestrial life form on Earth. And an ongoing subplot is that Quasar is getting frustrated with, Eon. For a guy who's omniscient, he's not very helpful. He's not able to quickly access information. And basically Quasar is just frustrated with his relationship with him and also Eon's developing relationship with his father, which we'll get to later. But he has a quick conversation with Eon and then moves on to the next thing. And basically he flies home into bed, and we get a great scene that I love here. This is, again, something kind of like a little storytelling technique that Mark Gruenwald probably got from Jim Starlin in the 70s, but we see 3 consecutive panels of Quasar sleeping, and we see the window next in his bedroom, no moon. Then we see the moon rising, and then in the third panel, the moon's rising even further, showing the passage of time. And in the fourth panel, we see 2 beings entering through the window, and it's a very cool little silent sequence that I really appreciate. And then in shadow, in the darkness of night, we see these 2 characters knocking out Quasar with a laser gun and then kidnapping him and flying him away. And longtime Marvel readers will tell by their garb, at least one of them, that these are Kree, right? For those that don't remember, Kree is the race that Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, is. No, she's not Kree. She gets her powers from the Kree.
Right.
Is the original Captain Marvel, Marvel, who Joshua Marvel gets his name from, was Kree. So anyway, they fly away into space, and this is a great sequence. We should remind everyone this is Mike Manley on art, but we'll talk about him later. They fly him into the ship. He's knocked out. They basically tie him down to this vessel, and then Dr. Minerva's like, okay, well, I'm going to try and get these quantum bends off, and she's like, oh, geez, it's not working. Well, I guess I'm going to have to amputate, right? And then the guy's like, oh, really? I'm going to go up to the bridge. Let me know if you need anything. And she's kind of like making fun of him in her thought bubble. Like, this guy's supposed to be this professional soldier, and he's look how squeamish he is, blah, 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 kind of making fun of him. So right away, she starts using a laser gun to amputate his hand so that she can get to the quantum bands. And then we cut to a dream sequence where Quasar is incorporating this pain into his dreams, and we see that he's having this dream about being buried on a beach underneath sand. And this is Kayla and what's the guy's name again?
Kenjiro.
Yeah, Ken and Kayla are burying him in sand. And then in the dream, he thinks that he's getting something is biting his arm. And he can't figure out what. And he looks down and it's a crab. But then in the dream, the crab becomes Eon. And it's Eon trying to contact him subconsciously and warn him that if he doesn't do something soon, he's going to lose his arm. So Quasar is like, well, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to like start shooting lasers out of my quantum bands, which in the real world starts happening. So he's shooting Dr. Minerva. One of the lasers hits her. And then on the Kree ship, the man, the captain or whatever he is, who's up in the bridge, kind of realizes the commotion that's going on, and then jumps up. Or what does he do? Oh, no, he's trying to contact Dr. Minerva, but she's not responding. So Quasar breaks free and then captures Dr. Minerva in his quantum bands, and they start talking. And then he starts fist fighting the Kree soldier, and then the Kree soldier is using his weapons, and Quasar is actually worried he's going to break the hull, and sure enough he does. So the soldier gets pushed out into space, although he incorrectly says sucked out. We know he's pushed out because we know physics, right? So he gets pushed out into space. Quasar seals the breach, starts talking to Dr. Minerva, and we get the best dialogue in the whole book here, where she basically says, he's basically asking her, so, why are you doing this? What's your reason? And she's like, oh no, he goes, hold on, lady. No one's going anywhere until you tell me what the whole kidnapping thing was about. She says, oh, all right. And then does a 3-page recap of Captain Marvel's origin, her last appearance, which was in Captain Marvel number 18, how she was on Earth and blah, 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 blah. And basically she's just trying to get the quantum band, which is fine. Which also shows that Mark Gruenwald is a stickler for continuity, which I love. So basically, he kind of forgives her. He's like, okay, fine, I get it. So now we should try and rescue your friend. So they manage to rescue the Kree guy from space. They bring him back in, and then it's so funny because he's like, don't you ever do that again. Okay, see you guys later. So he was going to have his arms amputated, and he just completely forgives them. And I also love, this is the second best dialogue in the whole book. He basically gives this huge speech, and then he's like, don't ever come near Earth again, or you're going to wish I ditched you both in hyperspace. Am I making myself clear? Her response, yes. He leaves. So then he goes back to his office, and he touches base with Kayla and Ken. He touches base with Eon, and we know that he's frustrated with what's been happening with Eon, but he doesn't really say much. He kind of says, I was wondering if there's a way to pre-program my quantum bands to protect me, if they're being tampered with. And Eon's like, yeah, it is possible. So then Quasar is back by himself, and he's like, so why did he tell me I could do that when he gave me the job? this whole idea of me trying to, having to figure everything out on my own is kind of ridiculous. So he's basically like, it's kind of left with him looking out the window, kind of contemplating what is going on with Eon and his whole role, and he's starting to doubt himself. And that's pretty much it. And that's the end of the story. And I must say, I was starting to have doubts about the new artist, Mike Manley, but maybe because this issue, Danny Bulanadi has helps from, I believe it's Tom Morgan on inks, but I thought the art was really good on this one.
It was great.
And it was great. And this issue feels more like the early classic 6-issue run by Paul Ryan. So I really like this issue. Josh, what did you think?
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I think it had its moments of weirdness. You had mentioned, like the extensive flashback on Minerva's backstory and her motives, and the fact that, like, why did she need to tell him all about her need to procreate with Captain Marvel to create the most ideal species, and then he died, so she had to find some other loser that would step in. It was just so strange. You could have just told us why you wanted the quantum bands. Right. Or not. Or just made up something. Right. Sure. Or lied. Like, and the thing is this is Mark Gruenwald's way of saying, I'm going to incorporate old continuity, which is fine. But to add an extra layer to it, you could have had her be a little bit more deceptive or leave stuff out. But because it's, it's more like he'd rather get the information across than the feeling across or the characterization across. Yeah. But the art is very, very good in this issue. Yeah, it's great. You're right. Yeah. It's some of the best, I think, in this series. Like, it's very good. I don't know. Can't argue. Like, if you don't mind flipping through, like this page, these next few pages here are so good. Minerva's face is like fantastic. A lot of artists, they just kind of draw this generic comic book woman face. And this looks like Minerva. This looks like this is what her face specifically looks like, and it's consistent throughout the comic, which is not seen very often a lot of the times with artists. They kind of just draw like a generic woman, and we'll put like different color hair on her so the audience knows who she is, kind of thing. So that is great. I think all of the stuff with Quasar flying and like the anatomy is just so well done. I love this sequence here at the bottom of original page 18 when they jump into hyperspace, and it's like the same panel twice, but one is like the speed lines, and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, we've just entered hyperspace. It's so good. I don't know. I really enjoyed this one. Even the dream sequence, like normally those could be ridiculous, but I don't know. There's something really charming about this one and how it like connects to what's happening in the real world, and Eon communicating with him through his mind because he only communicates telepathically. It's great. I really, really enjoy this issue. The inks are much cleaner than the previous issues. Yeah. Actually, look at this page. Original page 11. Go back to that. Look at Quasar at the bottom of that page. He looks perfect. Yeah. Like the amount of detail is exactly what you want. Just the right amount to show the shading and the muscles in his legs, but nothing more. It's just perfect. Yeah, I love it. And like even the top page with again, another 3-panel sequence of the storytelling of him getting the group of them getting farther and farther away from the reader. It's creative. And the thing is Mike Manley is not a fan favorite. He's never really been overly popular, but you can see how good his work is. He also had a career in storyboarding. So obviously he understands composition and layout and storytelling and all of that stuff. And he's also the artist that took over on Batman after Jim Aparo left with Batman 500 when Bruce Wayne was replaced by Azrael. I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but yeah, it was Mike Manley. So, I mean, he's no slouch. Like, this is great art. It's really good. When they're sneaking into his apartment too, and it's just the silhouettes, like it's great. Yep. Really good. I think all in all, it's a pretty darn good issue. I think besides the whole Minerva flashback backstory thing. It's a little dry. I really do love the cold opens. I also really like Eon and Quasar's like kind of like frustrating relationship with each other. The fact that is like constantly developing, and it's not just the same exact thing every time. Like he's one issue he'll be talking to his dad and he's like, ugh, why is this guy always talking to him and like getting in between us, and him being slow on helping him out or not telling him how to use his powers fully to protect Earth. Like I think it's pretty fun and interesting, and it's like I can't think of anything else where this like superhero has like relationship troubles with a sentient giant alien head. Like it's so
that's unique. A good point.
Yeah, it adds like a whole nother depth to their relationship. It's not just this ghostly mentor that knows all.
And the thing is that it's been said that Quasar is Marvel's version of Green Lantern. So you could argue that Hal Jordan's relationship with the Guardians of the Universe is similar, but the Guardians were on Oa, which was light years away at the center of the universe, whereas Eon is in his closet.
Right.
So you can talk to him every day. So yeah, it makes for a very, very cool dynamic. It's just a great book. I don't know. Yeah. It's like, just when I was starting to think, maybe, I only like these because of nostalgia. It's like this issue kind of brought me back and made me realize, no, there's a reason I really like this as a kid. And in fact, the more the time goes on and the more Bronze Age comics that I reread, I'm starting to think that more and more that Mark Gruenwald is one of my favorite writers. I mean, he was always one of my favorites, but now he's actually better over time the more I reread his stuff. Yeah. So yes, we both like this issue, number 10. Now we're going to jump to number 11. And this one, before we jump into this, are you familiar at all with Excalibur?
Only a little bit. I don't think I've read any like large stories with them. I've read issues here and there, and I know that the team has always been changing, right?
Well, in this time it was actually very consistent.
Oh,
it was
really?
Basically 3 leftover X-Men, Phoenix, like the second Phoenix, Nightcrawler and Kitty Pryde, who were kind of ousted from the X-Men in the mid 80s with the intent of completely having new members on the team. And then Chris Claremont kind of backtracked and brought back Colossus, but then kept these 3 off. But then he wanted to do something with them, so he created Excalibur and brought in Captain Britain and Megan and Widget. And then that, honestly, I think this was the team for the first 100 issues. I don't remember them really. Yeah, I don't really remember changing members, but that's pretty much it. It's pretty much like an X-Men spinoff, but in the UK. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna be looking at
issue number 11, The Fury of Phoenix. Or maybe it's called By the Time I Get to Phoenix.
Yeah.
So Quasar was supposed to be looking for one of these anomalies in the Atlantic last issue, but he couldn't find it, and that's when he was sucked up to Earth. So in this one, he's determined to kind of find out whatever's going on here. So he is zooming along, and he sees something, but it flies away so fast that it's like almost breaking the speed of sound. So he has to like try and keep up with this thing, and he's losing him. So he decides to shoot an energy like backpack essentially onto this person that is running away and have a parachute pop out of it. And this has slowed him down and like stopped him and almost like gave him whiplash. And he ends up face down floating in the water. So Quasar goes down and tries to save this guy. And luckily he is still breathing. Excuse me. But he is unconscious. So he brings him back to Avengers headquarters to Wonder Man. And in between that,
and specifically West Coast Avengers, not East Coast Avengers. Yeah.
Right. And then we cut over to the Excalibur headquarters, and everybody's kind of chilling. It's a rainy day. And we see this, like, these eyes, these like spectral eyes kind of spying on the gang. And we don't really know what's going on or who this is, but they're trying to look for somebody to take over so that way they can do something. So he kind of like these eyes kind of go through all of the members, and he's like, Captain Britain, too lame. Nightcrawler would be cool, but I feel like he escaped too quickly. Megan, that's pretty interesting, but Phoenix, I could really use the Phoenix Force right now. So he takes over Rachel Summers' body and mind and unleashes the Phoenix. We see Quasar drop off this body, and it turns out to be Makari. He flies away. He kind of meets up with his office gang, and we're kind of introduced to this subplot where this woman comes to essentially like make a bargain for a job. She's like, listen, if I can get you 5 clients within the week, you hire me. And Wendell's like, great, yeah, deal. That sounds good. But the other 2 employees aren't too convinced by this. Quasar talks to Ego for a little bit, and he's kind of like, I think maybe he's talking about the anomalies, I think. And he's like, I've been doing a pretty good job, right? And Ego's like, yeah, there's even more anomalies than there were before. So this is an endless job. So before Quasar can really get angry, he sees on this map the Phoenix Force kind of light up and shoot out of this hologram. So he's like, okay, I better go. This might be the thing that we've been waiting for. So we cut over and we see that in the mind of Summers, this entity and her are kind of fighting each other. But the entity is taking control, and we see that using the Phoenix, he blasts a hole into like a thin part of like a world between worlds, essentially, and rips a hole into another dimension.
Wait, did you say who it was though?
No, because we didn't figure out until this figure pops out.
Right. Then Okay.
And so then it's Modred the Mystic. Modred, right?
I think it's Modred or Modred, yeah.
So it's this powerful magician. He shows up and he's now teaming up with the Phoenix, who is under his control. Quasar then shows up and starts fighting them, but he's he's kind of like holding the Phoenix at bay at this point, but is starting to slowly be overpowered. And that's when this sorcerer uses the Crimson Bands of Sidorak to restrain him, and they leave him there and they fly off. And Quasar at this moment actually is trying to think back as to how to stop magic from restraining him. And he's like, I think iron, but I'm not sure. Let me ask Ego. And he goes like, I don't know. I'll get back to you in a few minutes. So he like almost abandons him. But that's when the rest of the team of Excalibur shows up, and they decide to team up. Quasar makes them a little ship and is like flying behind him, and they catch up to Modred and Phoenix. And there's like a fun little battle that starts. Phoenix like starts shooting some fire while Quasar is like holding Modred captive with some bands, and he's holding up the ship behind him. And at the same time, he's created this like big energy pipe that is funneling the fire from the Phoenix Force through the pipe and down into the ocean. And unfortunately, he can't sustain this for long, so he decides to drop the team, the Excalibur team, into the water so he can use all of his powers against the Phoenix Force. Madrid ends up escaping, but but what Quasar does is he turns this like pipe over to Madrid, and he starts like burning. So he orders the Phoenix to stop, which kind of breaks the bond between them. And with Widget and Nightcrawler team up to create a portal, and Nightcrawler bamfs up there to push him through and send him to another dimension. And yeah, this is kind of where this issue is left off. Quasar drops them back off to their headquarters, and we're kind of left with an angsty Quasar, kind of mad about Ego leaving him out to dry. And he's like, dang, I don't know if I'm really up for this. I don't know if I'm the leader that I'm supposed to be. And we kind of see him create an energy face of himself that he then smashes through. Right. But to end us off for this issue. It's a pretty good one. It's a little weirder, I think, than the other ones. Less like, less of a good story, more of like a fun team up, I guess. But I almost wish there was more for Excalibur to do.
See, the thing is even when I was in my feverish, dream state of love for X-Men, I never bought Excalibur. I never cared about the concept. I mean, I like Nightcrawler and Kitty Pryde, but I don't care about Phoenix 2. I don't care about Megan, and Captain Britain's fine, but it was just a weird mishmash of leftover ideas. So even in this issue, I'm not really excited about what they're doing. They kind of pop in midway through the story, then don't do much. And then I don't like this Mordred, the Mystic character, much either. He's okay, but he just doesn't really do it for me. I appreciate Mark Gruenwald once again bringing back an obscure character, but other than that, the story is fine. It's just that it's not up to. I don't like it as much as previous issues. However, the art could be even better in this issue. The inking is by a different inker named Fredericks. It's amazing. I think the thing that stands out for me is the texture of the water. And like when Phoenix is looking out the window, the rain on her and the coloring, that's a great shot on original page 5 or 6, which is looking out right there. Yeah, that's a great shot. I just love it. And the orange backlit on the side of her face. And like when you cut to the next page again, the inking is just great. The kind of double face on her with her eyes kind of floating above her, the eyes floating above her other eyes and everything. I just think the inkings and the art overall is great in this issue. What do you think? Yeah, it's really good. I think it's pretty on par with the last previous issue. One? Yeah, it's really good. I think too. Sorry. Oh, I was gonna say jump to page 15. And again, look at the shot at look at Modred, look at the hand with the black and the color, and then the shot below that with him looking up and like the shadow on his hand. This is like classic superhero art. I think it's really good. But, sorry. Yeah. What were you going to say? And it could easily be muddled too in a story like this with how many characters there are in one panel a lot of the times. Like this whole page, there's only one panel with one character. Every other one has 4 characters in it. Like there's so much going on, but it's so clear as to what's happening that I was honestly more surprised that the art was still this good in this issue, because there's just so much more happening in each panel. Yeah, and also I've got to point out, like, even if you jump to page, what is this, 26, original page 26, and these are the pages that they skip over story pages because the numbering includes the ads, but look at this shot where I just love how you've got 2 shots of Modred, then you've got this wide shot of Quasar attacking him, then this big close-up of his face. That again, that's classic Marvel storytelling. I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
I really like it.
I love the idea too that Quasar has these like otherworldly powers, but still decides to just like make a pipe to like bend the Phoenix Force away from him. It's fun. I don't know. I think it's kind of creative how he uses the power. So this was a fun one. Not my favorite. I think the team up part of it leaves a lot to be desired. They don't really do anything besides give us an out at the end of the comic to finish the story off, just to like, you know, shove him back through a portal. I kind of wished that maybe they did something to help restrain him. Like Quasar was just doing all 3 things all at once on this page, right? So like, I don't know, they could have given them a little bit more to do in the story, but other than that, it was pretty fun. I still enjoyed reading it, even for its, you know, kind of mediocre story.
Right. I still think it was a good issue, but yeah, not quite as good as the previous one. But now we're gonna jump to the next issue, which is number 12, and this issue we're gonna summarize together. But this cover actually looks remarkably. Oh, I was gonna say it looks like a Mike Mignola cover, and that's because it is a Mike Mignola cover. He actually signed it. This is pre-Hellboy, obviously, but it looks great. Arena of Death. And then it says at the bottom, Tutank's attacks. And basically, we open up again with a cold open in the middle of Quasar getting his face punched in. So he's getting attacked. Yeah, I love it. Who are these? Oh, who are these guys? The brothers who?
The Blood Brothers. They are Deviants, right?
Right. And I've never heard or seen these guys in any other comics, so they're probably very obscure. But he manages to fight them off. We can see that he's got a black eye. Oh, the reason is because he's actually captured them and he's brought them out to Mars.
Yeah.
And he's basically just leaving them there. I think that's such a cool idea. And then he flies away. He's like, okay, see ya. Now, I got a comment in case I forget. Oh, I was going to say, wish we would have seen a wide shot of Mars, but we do. It's on the next page. So we see him flying from Mars to Earth. And in between, he does a quantum jump because Mars and Earth are not nearly that close together, right? So he does a quantum jump. He touches base with Wonder Man, who we also saw in the previous issue, West Coast Avenger. And I don't remember what they say here.
He's asking how Makar is.
Oh, Makari, yeah.
Makari, yeah. And he's kind of like, yeah, he's fine. He woke up, but then he just left.
Right.
So,
and then you can take over for the next few pages if you want.
Oh, yeah, sure. So he heads back to the headquarters. And this is what I was talking about, where he just like flies past some guys and like knocks over the mailman. I think that's Willie Lumpkin. That's Willie Lumpkin from that's right.
Fantastic Four, yeah.
So I don't know how people haven't figured this out by now. But yeah, he changes while he's flying up the elevator shaft, and he walks in, and he opens up the secret door behind the elevator, and he kind of gets into a little bit of an argument with his dad. His dad and Ego are there, chatting it up, and he kind of pulls him off to the side and is like, listen, I am kind of uncomfortable with you constantly getting in between me and Ego. It's weird. I'm trying to get closer to him so I can figure out more about these powers and save Earth, and you constantly being here. And then he's like interrupted and corrected, like, well, technically I'm not here. It's just my mind projecting. Right. He's like, yeah, I don't really care. I'm just trying to do my job and do it right. So his dad is kind of like, okay, whatever, and leaves in a huff. And Quasar kind of says some sort of comment to Ego and then walks out the door and slams it shut. And then I think in his frustration, he kind of just takes off early from work and goes out flying. Oh, he comes up with this idea. That's right. he comes up with this strange idea to use his energy powers to create a net essentially around the entire Earth. That way, if anything passes through, he'll be able to detect it right away. So there won't be any new threats. I don't know exactly how feasible this is, because does he not have to concentrate on
that? Yeah, I was thinking that too. They should have just not used this idea. Yeah. But luckily, I guess he's just kind of standing here waiting for something to pass through. And luckily something does. So he chases it down, and it's Makkari, kind of in the middle of the Himalayas, I believe it is, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And immediately Makkari starts attacking him. And then Quasar, like, trips him a little bit. And he's like, oh, geez, I didn't realize it was you, Quasar. You saved me. Thanks. And then he kind of tells him that Makkari's looking for his his professor or his mentor, right? His guru. So
yeah, he was training with a guy named Master Elo.
Elo, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
The grooviest guru. Yeah, and we should. Yeah, I could take over for a minute if you want.
Sure. Yeah.
Also should point out that Makkari, I guess he's supposed to be talking like a surfer dude kind of thing, almost, I think. But he has this odd speech pattern, and Quasar kind of asks him, he's like, where did you learn to speak English? He's like, oh, just here and there. But I think the joke is that he's talking like a surfer dude. He's using all this weird slang, or like a hippie from like the 60s or something, like a West Coast hippie. So anyway, so then he hooks up with Makkari, and they end up traveling to, is this the where do they go? They
go to the ocean floor.
Yeah, they go to the ocean floor.
I don't know if they say what ocean they're over, but
right. But we see them going, like, descending in one of Quasar's energy bubbles, and then coming up. And Makkari's like, okay, I'm going to go explore, because we have to remind people Makkari's like the Flash. He can run really fast, so he starts running. Quasar uses his
cape,
his cape as like a cloak.
It's so fun.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's very cool. So then he's kind of like wondering, where is everybody, because it's completely empty. But then he comes across this like almost like Coliseum type thing, and he sees a bunch of people in this giant crowd around this guy who was on the cover, and he's fighting a small guy, and the big guy kind of like knocks him down, and then Quasar kind of like intervenes, and he's trying to stop the guy from killing this guy, right? And then we cut over to some people that are watching who are deviants, who are related to the Eternals. And then Quasar jumps in and he starts fighting this guy. But then all of a sudden, the guy kind of changes appearance and becomes his father. So it basically psychs out Quasar, and he's not able to fight back because he really believes that it's father. And so this big guy is kicking the crap out of him. Tutanax is his name. And he's kicking him, he's punching him, and he's beating him down. Then just at that moment, we actually cut over to Quasar's real father in Connecticut. And Quasar's father is writing something, and he's like, oh, he's thinking about his son. And then just at that moment, he starts to experience pain in his chest, and then he falls over and collapses, and it's a silent panel. Then we cut away, we cut back to Lemuria, and Makkari is running around, and then he comes across his master from earlier, and then he basically is like, okay, well, I'm going to get you out of here. And then we have the worst dialogue in the whole book, which is where he says, be back in a moment. With a chainsaw I remember passing. Why they're in Lemuria? Why couldn't they think of something more creative than a freaking chainsaw?
Right.
It pissed me off.
Yeah, chainsaws are used to cut down like big trees. Right. Usually those don't grow underwater.
Stupid.
That's ridiculous, but
yeah. So we cut back, and Quasar is getting his ass kicked by this guy. And then just as he's about to get killed by him, Makkari swoops in and rescues him. And then you can finish out the story, Josh.
Yeah, so he's kind of like, hey, don't worry, I got my mentor. We'll head up back to Earth as long as you're ready. And he's still kind of dazed. He thinks maybe it's his dad or whatever. So he creates a bubble, and they go back to Earth. He ends up crashing that night at the office, and when the gang shows up, they're kind of confused because he's all beaten up and like bruised. And then at the end of this issue, we are kind of left with these 3 panels of his father dead on the floor as Ego is trying to communicate with him. And then the last panel we hear Ego's thoughts. Alas, my friend, death has claimed you. This will not do. This most certainly will not do.
Awesome.
So, yeah, this is where this issue ends. This one was the strangest one. Maybe my least favorite.
Really?
I don't know. I didn't love the whole Quasar not doing anything. Like,
well, see, okay. First, I like the characters in this more than Excalibur. Like, I like the fact that Mark Gruenwald is again digging through his old comic books and pulling in these weird, obscure characters. I like that. I like the fact that we travel to Lemuria. Again, I believe that's a 70s Marvel thing. It might be Jack Kirby. You know, digging into the old continuity and bringing back old characters. I love that. Tying in his father into the story, I thought was really cool. And the fact that at the end, we can only believe that his father must be dead now. I've read it, so I know, but I'm not going to say anything. But I don't know. And I thought the subplots with the rest of the characters in the office was really well done. So I actually really liked this issue. But you didn't think it was as good as the last 2?
Yeah, I don't think it was as good as the last 2. I feel like we could have gotten Quasar doing a little bit more. He kind of just helps Makari run an errand, essentially.
Right.
And Makari's kind of doing his thing. And we're getting this like meta battle between him and his father. Right. Which is interesting, but like it's not with a character that he knows or we know or even care about. And it's kind of just, I don't know. It was fine. I just think I like this one the least out of all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I want to point out, earlier I did say the cover was by Mike Mignola. I don't think it is. It's by Mike Manley, another Mike. It's just that it looks like Mike Mignola. So we'll just leave it at that. But the inks on the cover are by Keith Williams, so maybe that's why it looks kind of different. But just going through this issue, we just want to point out the Blood Brothers. I'm just going to quickly say the Blood Brothers first appeared in Iron Man 55, which was, I believe, the first appearance of Thanos. So they must be connected to Thanos.
Oh.
Yeah. Tutankhamun first appeared in Eternals Annual #1, so that's a Jack Kirby character. Where's Master? I'm sorry, I'm just going through MarvelFandom.com here. Master Elo, which was the this is his first appearance. The kind of guru guy.
Oh.
Yeah. So Willie Lumpkin. That was definitely Willie Lumpkin. So yeah, there's a lot of cool little obscure characters in this one. So I thought it was really nice. And like as we said earlier, the inks are by Fredericks, who I am not overly familiar with. But let's see here. He didn't do much. He's got a very short. I guess he's inked about 100 Marvel comics. He's just a character or a creator I've never heard of until now. But yeah, his inks were great in this issue. What'd you think of the art in this one?
Yeah, it was good. It was I think the art was good as usual.
Right.
Again, still pretty clear as to what's happening. There wasn't a moment I was like lost. Especially with the like this big guy transforming into his dad. I thought it was pretty well and clearly laid out. Like we get like a flash of his dad, and then we see him with just his dad's face, and then we have like 2 panels that are almost exactly the same, that are this big monster punching him, and then the same exact pose in the next panel it's his father, to really kind of showcase what is happening and then what Quasar is seeing. So yeah, I thought it was pretty well done. Yeah, good.
Yeah. And again, I think when I read this as a kid, I took the art for granted as just kind of being average, you know. But now, again, with years of reading comic books, I kind of start to appreciate storytelling more, and things like that, and just composition and layout. Like it's great. And like the ending with his father, kind of the camera zooming into his face as he's laying on the floor, and the dialogue with Eon kind of saying, alas, my friend, death has claimed you. This will not do. This most certainly will not do. It's just great. So, again, sometimes with Quasar, the actual main plot is the least interesting thing. I find sometimes the subplots are more interesting with the cast at the office, or his father, or his relationship with his father, or Eon. And so no matter what happens, even if the monster of the week isn't interesting, the other stuff always is, I find. So I think that's one reason I like this book so much.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, are you interested in digging up these characters? Like maybe some of these characters, again, I've never been a fan of Excalibur, but these other ones are definitely interesting. Like the Eternals and the Deviants, and I've read some of this old stuff, so I'm not sure if you're interested in reading more about them. What do you think?
Maybe. I think I would be interested in reading more. I don't know much about Makari or the Eternals, honestly, as a whole. So, maybe I'll look up some like good Eternals stories and arcs to pick up and read because of this. Yeah, I think even Excalibur, it's kind of made me interested in learning more about them. I know that these are kind of like commercials for other comics a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But I feel like Quasar has been doing it pretty well. Like way better than Marvel Team Up has ever done it. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
to be fair, these characters don't have their own book. So, like, I mean, the West Coast Avengers did, but
did Excalibur not have their own book?
Oh, Excalibur did, but it's not like Blood Brothers and
Sure.
Shudar, right? I know what you're saying, though. But if anything, I think it's the opposite. I think Excalibur was in there to help sales of Quasar.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, so we should say that, again, because I bought these when they were coming out, at this time, Quasar was doing okay, but I can only guess that the sales were not spectacular because starting with the next issue, for the next 4 issues in a row, they bring in some superstar artists to do the covers, which we're going to talk about on our next episode, in which we cover 4 issues of Quasar, numbers 13, 14, 15, and 16, and the subtitle of that story is Journey into Mystery. So our podcast comes out usually once a month, so be sure to join us in about 4 or 5 weeks for Quasar Qua-Nology number 21. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast or watching the podcast now. You can find all of our stuff over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. You can also find our stuff on Facebook and YouTube and pretty much wherever you can find podcasts. Leave us a review, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about the stuff we're talking about and the movies and the shows and, the podcast itself. Keep in touch and let's keep that comics conversation going.
That's right. So until the next time, see you later.
All right.